Story number 1. My Ghostly Neighbour. Back in my hometown of Terengganu, Malaysia, it's pretty breathless. The state that I come from is half country and half city sort of feel. There are haunted buildings all over the place, depending on the age of the area and its history too. It's a laid-back state, hence a great place for a holiday. But the Malay language can be a little unbearable if you can't catch on to their slang. Being born and bred there has no problems for me, so yeah. Now, my encounter was pretty eerie. When I was growing up, I have always wondered why this lady always stood outside my fence on the far corner of the compound, looking around and slightly transparent. I see her once in a while, and when she notices me, she will smile and wave back and return to her routine of looking around. It's always at night that she is always there, as if guarding or waiting. I never got to see her face clearly since I'm a kid and I wasn't allowed to go out at night. What's worse, the garden outside can be dangerous with snakes and stuff. Despite the many years that has gone by, this woman never aged. Being a child at the time, I never knew why. It was one of those chilly nights, and I was already 10 years of age. Two of the neighborhood kids came by, Renee and Adrian, since they won't let me use their real names here. They were a lot older than me, so they were considered young adults. So, under their supervision, they brought a minimal amount of firecrackers to play with, behind their parents' backs, of course. My siblings and I were naturally excited, of course, but laughed pretty hard when they told us to keep quiet about it. There were a few types they brought that were fun and safe to play with minimal burnings and explosions. And so, we started playing together. As always, I would look to the same corner, and she will be standing, waiting, and looking around. But today, she wasn't there. Perhaps she went home this time? That was what I thought in the beginning, given I'd seen her standing there almost every night. Well, it's okay, I thought, and we carried on burning and watching the sparkly flames dancing in its desired patterns. In the middle of all this, Renee started looking around, looking a little confused and uncomfortable somehow. We noticed her discomfort and wondered what was wrong. At first it was just confusion, until we noticed that she got more agitated the longer she hung around. She decided to move closer to one of us, as if paranoid, until I noticed that the lady was back. This time, instead of looking around, she was just looking in our direction, as if glaring. Why is she watching us that way? What happened to her smiley and friendly nature? Not too soon after we burned all the firecrackers, making sure all the remaining scraps of the firecracker were doused with water, Adrian was a little irritated with Renee's sudden cling to her brother's arm. But she looked pretty frightened somehow, urging for the both of them to return home immediately. I turned around to look for the lady. She wasn't there anymore. Perhaps she left. So, the two of them scrambled home, and we went into the house. After that night, Adrian and Renee never came to our house again. When I grew a lot older, my aunt from my dad's side came over to my house one day to visit. As always, she brings her repeated stories of my cousins entering university, and then her dog. But this time, she tells me another story. The stretch of land that homed my house, and a few others, used to be a local fruit orchard belonging to 3 sisters. When they died, they had their bodies buried in the orchard grounds. How they died was never told, but I heard that one of the sisters died in a very unpleasant way. When the land was sold to the new owners, my late grandparents on my dad's side of the family, they managed to find 2 graves before they planned to use the land. But they could not find the 3rd grave. Story number 2. Neighbour's Well. I am from Malacca, Malaysia. This story happened when I was too young to understand most things. But I do know how to feel very afraid. And I do know that that is how I felt. A long time ago, when I was still in my primary school, I lived with my grandparents. My family practiced Taoism. In our main hall, we have a cabinet in which we have placed deities that we worship. I always admired that cabinet, the deities. It all looked so majestic. My father was the only one who looked after the cabinet. And now, here's the story. Our neighbours to the left of us were an Indian family with 3 kids. I can hardly remember their names. I think it's like Bala, Siva, and Selvam. This Indian family dug a well at the back of their house. I can still remember vividly the look of that well. The water was muddy, and it looked more like someone's diarrhea. It smelled very bad. That well, according to my understanding, was first to imitate us. My family dug a well too, but it was well maintained by my father. He used it to water the plants in the garden at the back of my house. Our neighbours, on the other hand, had another idea. They dumped leftover food into the well that they dug themselves. This explains the reason why that well looked more like a shithole than an actual well. The bad news? They did not know that there was something present near that well. A ghost? A spirit? No one knew. Let's call it a ghost. This ghost, in the end, got so frustrated with that tainted well that it went on a rampage that one night. I don't know the exact date, but our neighbours called out for help one night, and they telephoned us. They said that their house was full of white smoke, but there were no signs of a fire. The largest of them, Selvam, fell down. He said that he felt someone push him down. They looked through the kitchen's window, which is facing that well. They said that they could see a shadowy figure reflected on the cemented floor, but they could not see any physical figure. My father, being a devotee to these Taoism deities, was spiritually protected. my father went over to help. As soon as he confronted that ghostly shadow, the shadow disappeared and my neighbor was free from the grasp of evil. My neighbors were so shaken that they buried the well the next day. They apologized to whoever the figure was by way of prayer and offerings, and they were forgiven. This story was told after my father helped my neighbor that night. I had no idea on how true those incidents were. Since that day, a number of strange spiritual happenings happened to my family. Most of the time, it involves the deities from above. Story number 3. Whispers in the Dark. This was my first encounter. It happened when I was 9, and I can remember it clearly. Okay, so every summer I would go to Malaysia and visit my mum's side of the family. At that time, we didn't own a house, so we used to stay in my granny's house. It was at night, around 10 p.m, when it happened. I was playing with my cousins inside the house, and then I went out of the house from the back door. Behind the house was this field of grass. It was kind of big. We would play there in the daytime. And then there was a jungle next to it. I went out there to get a break from playing with my cousins because I was exhausted. I was all alone out there, but the back door was still open, so there was a bit of light. I was resting for a while and looking around. Then suddenly, I could hear someone whispering my name. My name is Celine, by the way. It wasn't just one whisper at a time. Lots of whispers were whispering my name, all at the same time. I looked around to see if my cousins were doing a prank on me, but I could see them from inside the back door. They were still playing there. I wasn't really scared though. But then, somehow, something was controlling my body to move towards those whispers. The whispers were leading into the pitch black jungle. I got so scared, but I couldn't really move freely. So, I was moving closer and closer to the jungle. But then, my mum yelled my name to come inside. I got distracted and suddenly I could move freely, and so I ran back inside the house. I got chills after that, and I started shivering because I was so scared. I did think it was kind of cool though. Not much of a creepy story, but I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry if my English is bad. It's not my first language. Story number 4. Camping experience. When I was 11 years old, my school held a 2 days and 1 night camping experience in the school. It is a Chinese school in Masai Johor, Malaysia. I'd rather not reveal the name of the school. The camping experience was held only for the 11-year-old students, or, as according to the Malaysian education system, Standard 5 students. There were exactly 229 students in the 5th standard, boys and girls together. The afternoon went well as half of the night. At around 10 p.m, we were having a barbecue session. I have a large group of friends, consisting of 32 friends in all, boys and girls of different cultures and religions. My 6 best friends and I are usually the type of people to jump headfirst into any supernatural situation. But that night, even we were shook to the core. That night had been a Malam Jumat, which means Thursday night. It is usually believed by Malaysians that ghosts are extremely active and love to wander and disturb people the most on Thursday nights, more than any other normal night. I remember we were making howling sounds out of nowhere, just to remind everyone that it was a Thursday night. It was all fun and laughs. That is, until Amira, one of my 6 best friends, screamed. And she said that there were red eyes looking at us from the front of the storeroom bell tower on top of the office. Not only had she seen it, but also a few other Chinese students had spotted it as well. Although, when she screamed at us to look, there wasn't anything there. That was when all of us students felt chills running down our spines. The teachers didn't notice our silent panicking at all. All of us were just silently dreading to ourselves, having that gut feeling that something was wrong. Behind us was the block containing the standard 6 students' classrooms. It was the darkest building there at that time. Some of us turned completely. Some stood up and walked closer to the building to get a closer look. Others were only sending glances, either wishing to catch a glimpse of something or not wanting to see anything at all, but just doing it to appear brave. I was one of the ones to move closer to the building. Alas, I found nothing. Instead, when I looked at the block building which contained our classrooms and the 3rd standard students' classrooms, and looked at the 4th floor's 5th classroom at the end of the hallway on the left, beside the girls' toilet, I saw a woman with messy, long black hair covering her face, wearing a long white dress which was blood-stained, and she was looking directly at all of us students. The scariest part about it was that was my classroom. I stood there, shocked at the sight in front of me. Some people ran away towards the tents in the arenas. Some people started screaming and crying. Some people ran to the toilet out of fright with friends. My group, and a few other group of friends, were still there at the barbecue area. The teachers told us to just continue eating at the camping area, which is the big assembly hall for the girls and the small assembly hall for the boys. That was a night that I could never ever forget. We all saw that woman. It certainly scared all of us. But luckily, it didn't disturb any of us at all other than that scene that night. After that, there were rumors that started circling the school, saying that the ground the school was built on was a graveyard. Then it became a mental hospital before becoming our school. I don't believe in those rumors, seeing as The ones that spread them had no solid proof, but I do know what I saw that night with my own eyes. There was a ghost woman standing in my classroom. Story number 5. Haunted Room. In 2004, I went to Genting Highlands, a popular casino and theme park destination in Malaysia, with my partner and a group of friends after the last exam of our high school life. Being teens on a budget, we decided to get the most affordable hotel where we can afford to put 2 persons in a room instead of everyone in one room. When I first stepped into that room that I shared with my partner, I felt very uncomfortable, but I decided to keep quiet about it as I didn't want my friends to think I'm a wacko. The room layout was where you open the door, there will be a small walkway, toilet and shower on the left, and further down the walkway will be the television and the queen-size bed. We put down the luggage and we went out the whole day just walking around in the cool weather, just fooling around as friends do. That night, after shower and dinner with the gang, my partner and I decided to explore around the hill with the boys. But I decided not to tag along because my feet were hurting. Back in the room, I leave the table lamp on while trying to fall asleep. I found it impossible to sleep, with the uncomfortable feeling that I kept getting from that room. The feeling was just like a bunch of ants crawling on my body. I gave up on trying to sleep. I sat up in the bed, reading a manga, when I heard the unmistakable sound of bells tinkling. It sounded like someone wearing an anklet with tiny bells moving from the area of the door and pacing in front of the toilet. I dismissed the sound as coming from outside. Another 30 minutes passed. This time, the sound moving much closer and sounded like it's in the same area as me. Still being stubborn, I continued laughing and giggling while reading the manga. This time, I felt the bed sink on my right, like someone just tried to climb into the bed with me. Okay, this time I'm spooked. I pretended I'm still reading my manga while inside I'm freaking out, because I can clearly feel something next to me. I sat there, debating whether to jump out of the bed and bail or to text my partner to come back. Then, I spotted their phone on the dresser. Damn it. I wanted to bolt out the door when I felt the being moved closer to me. I heard another tinkling of bells coming from the area in front of that walkway. I began to recite a prayer when my partner walked in. They are a non-believer at that time. I knew that they would not believe me. I kept my terror to myself as they turned into sleep. Less than 1 hour later, my partner sits up in bed and says, "Let's go sleep in the other room." They practically dragged me out of the room. The other room was the only room with 2 single beds. Although disgruntled, we decided to share beds. The next day, my partner told the rest of the group that they felt someone stroking their arm. But I'm on the left side of the bed. I still get shivers thinking of that night.